Mm.
Hello, everybody. This is Katie Steinle coming to you live with an episode of Muses, where myself and all of my beautiful counterparts come to you every week to talk about all things spiritual. To really help with the transformation of this time, we come to you with a collective background. We have very different specialities, different experiences, and it's all to help the planet ascend. We invite you to share this out to your people and engage by commenting today, adding your insight. We would love to hear from you. Let me start by introducing my amazing co-hosts today. We've got Stephanie Victoria, founder of Kalyana Therapeutics, focused on transformational healing at a DNA level. Her work involves high vibe cellular technologies and metaphysical practices. Then we've got Chris Alicia, founder of Ascended Warrior, which provides spiritual and mindful mentorship to veterans, first responders, and other survivors of trauma. Cat Bendure is the owner of Cat Bendure Healing Communication. She facilitates communication with animals, angels, guides, ascended masters to help people reconnect to the rest of the natural world, re-engaging intuition, remembering their path, and reaching their highest potential. And myself, Katie Steinle, I'm a human design specialist, Reiki master, Qigong instructor, and owner of Discover Your Design, which maps your soul's unique blueprint for living your life to your fullest potential and reconnects you with your intuition. So that's our crew that we've got with you here today. Thank you all for tuning in. Last week, we were talking about global expansion and acknowledging how we're purging the negative and focusing on the positive. What does that look like on an individual level to all of us? I mean, we're all unique. It's going to mean different things to different people. And how do we drop into our bodies and anchor, the positive in and get the negative, purge the negative out of the mind, which tends to take over and cause fear and all sorts of, anxiety and other emotions. So let me start by the topic by just saying that, I have been searching for this answer for a very long time, probably like a decade. And in all of the studies, I've studied vast number of different, philosophies and different works and studies. I have found for myself, awareness is key. It's key to everything. It's key from manifesting with intention to surrendering and letting go. We have to take responsibility we have to be in our bodies and be aware of how we interact, how we put ourselves out there, what we let into our environment and our field, because it really does impact us on a subconscious level a lot of times that we don't even fully recognize. And once we realize that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, that's when you realize how important it is not to rely on your mind for important decisions, but to tune into your inner knowing and your inner wisdom. Your body is unique, and each of us is genetically designed to learn in a certain way, to act in a certain way. It's our default. So the four of us, if we take in a piece of information, we're all going to take it in a little differently, right? Just based on who we are and, how we have been brought up in this world to perceive things. So it's really about getting in tune with your intuition and letting that be your guide, and not letting other people or the environment you're in or your minds influence you and sidetrack you from making incorrect decisions. Because we all know, like, our minds can talk us in and out of everything. A bowl of ice cream, that guy, the job, all those things that might really not be the best thing for us. So when you start trusting yourself, that's when you start being in the right places at the right times with the right people for the right experiences. It's all based on that tuning in, and that inner wisdom and letting that be your guide. Now, I know, Stephanie, you focus very specifically in your line of work with your nutritional practice. and, you know, using that to help people drop into their bodies and anchor in. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's kind of where my brain goes immediately when we talk about dropping into the body, because for me, it's been like no other experience I've ever had. The changes that I've made with the way that I fuel my cells, fuel my body. And that doesn't mean that I don't have days where I fall off the wagon, right? But when I'm crafting a lifestyle for myself, I'm making bigger and bigger leaps toward feeding myself life force, and that's it. Raw fruits and veggies, and really, really high amounts of those things. I would suggest for anybody, even if they're not a vegan or a vegetarian or any of those things. That's where we get those incredible healing micronutrients and key codes from the sun that fuel us and fuel our bodies and deliver data from the earth. It gives us such a pure, clean vessel. And I mean, where I am right now, I'm in the mountains, and this experience that I'm having here would not be what it has been without the way that I fueled myself in the months before I came, and the way that I'm eating here. And I can literally just step off the deck of this cabin into this vast expanse of trees and beautiful Gaia flesh, right? I vibrate right along with it in a different way when I fuel myself properly. And that really gives me the ability to be in my body and to experience everything that's going on around me in this place in a much different way, because my mind isn't interfering like it would if I was feeding my gut disruptive foods, inflammatory foods that send that signal from the gut to the brain and activate the mind in ways that those life force foods don't, because you're feeding the cells, you're feeding the soul.
That's a really good point, because I think a lot of times when I think of, you know, my environment, and I am trying to focus on, you know, what is positive, what is negative, I don't necessarily think directly of food. You just, you know, because you just do it every day, and it's such a habit that a lot of times, I think for a lot of us, we end up losing that intention, right? And that's what you're talking about. I love that.
Yeah. It takes you to a completely different vibrational state. Your body can't help but respond to high vibe foods by elevating your vibration. It's part of how we're made. We're electrical beings, and our cells soak up that data, that information, that life force, that liquid, right? We're drinking from the earth every time we eat a piece of fruit. It's like nature's distillery. Really, really pure, wholesome nutrients and liquid. And you can completely hydrate yourself with nothing but fruit, just fruit. If you eat enough fruit, you never have to drink water, and fruit hydrates your cells interstitially. So now you're really talking about an elevated vibration. You're really talking about the body coming alive in a different way.
With
water is superficial. Yeah, I try to take people off of water in my counseling. The really serious ones that want to dive in hardcore and hydrate at a cellular level, TMI maybe, but you don't even use the restroom as much. When you hydrate on fruit, there's really no other way to say it. Like you become so hydrated at a cellular level within the cells. It's not superficial hydration. You're giving your body exactly what it is made to receive. And so your vibe is elevated. You're not having to hold on to hydration, water, which the body does if you're not eating enough fruit, enough liquids from your food. And then you don't make all kinds of trips back and forth. You know, if you drink water all day long, you're like back and forth to the bathroom all day. You don't experience that with fruit. You don't experience it the same way. It gives your body a completely different, settled, balanced, high vibe energy.
It makes sense.
Super cool. Super way to drop into the body.
I love what you said about the data, that your body is receiving data from the fruits and vegetables. And I don't think most of us think of it that way. And when you say it, it really rings through down deeply. It isn't just that you're getting the nutrition that you need. It's data that's
No.
letting your entire body communicate with the rest of your body appropriately. Right? I mean,
we talked, yeah. And we talked about like being on the earth and being of the earth. We're also part of it. We're this big organism. It's part of us and we're part of it. And we're eating of it, imbibing it. We're imbibing the earth. We're imbibing Gaia's frequency and the data from her layers, right? Because all of that water that comes down and the nutrients in the soil coming back up through and feeding into the food, and then you're consuming it. And it was sent through a process with the sun involved also. So key codes from the sun. I mean, there's data everywhere, all around us all the time, in the air, in the soil, in the sun, and it all ends up in our food and then in us.
Yeah. If you look at like the ancient priestess traditions, I was always obsessed with these growing up. And I must caveat this statement by saying I am in no way, shape, or form a vegetarian. But they were very, very careful, especially around ceremony times, what they would eat, because they needed the vessel to be as pure as humanly possible to put out and be able to channel all that energy. So they would only eat things that they grew. They grew them very carefully. They honored them at different moon times, planted different seeds at different moon times, so that they were infused with the right energy to feed the vessel. And we've gotten so far away from that with the synthetic stuff that we do. We don't even know what's in our foods most of the time anymore.
No.
Let alone how it's prepared. If you talk about intention with food, what is the process that our food is taking to get to us? What intent are they putting into the animals? How are they treating them? How are they treating the vegetables and the crops? That all cycles into who we are.
Whose energy is around all of those things, right? Like, because when we're buying something from the store, these foods and products and things, everything takes on an energy. Where has it been? It's just like you were saying, same kind of thing. And then you start to go through your mind, like the journey that it travels to the shelf.
It makes me think of like the mass production. If you think of the mass production of food as almost like it's not dehumanizing, but it's stripping away something of our individuality, because the food is losing its individuality. It's mass production. There's no intent behind it other than numbers.
Dollars.
Yeah. So what does that do to everybody across the board who eats it, to generations? It's an interesting thought.
We talk about that in Qigong. It's you have to really pay attention to who has touched the food that's going into your body, because I mean there's nothing that beats a mother's love, right? You know, that's why when you go and you have that family meal, and it just it's not even just like the taste, you know, it's just like how it nourishes you and fuels you, versus you don't know if you're, you know, in a restaurant, if the cook just got into a fight and his girlfriend broke up with him and he's swearing while he's, you know, and it's energy, you know what I mean? It's like, even if he's just yelling to the air, it's like going into your food, and you just eat like you have no idea. You wonder why you're pissed off later.
But we can combat that with our own intention when it arrives to us. That's why they always say, bless your water, bless your food when it gets there. That old tradition of saying a prayer before meals, I stopped doing it because I thought it was too Christian, and I was so anti-Christian there in my youth. But there was something more to it than that. It wasn't Christianity. They're blessing their food. They're imbibing sacred energy into their food every single time before they consume it.
And clearing it.
Yes,
that's what I was going to say. Clearing the energy and then infusing it with their intention. And
it's sad that we've kind of convoluted what that practice was about. Instead of honoring whatever faith you're in, it's honoring your food and your vessel.
And I think, to your point, you brought up intention, having intention, you know, with your food, and intention with your life, and even just waking up in the morning and just having, you know, that before you get out of bed, that intended thought of, I am going to drop out of my head today and anchor into my body. I'm going to be aware of my environment. I'm going to move through the day just focused on what's in front of me in the present moment and not start future tripping or thinking about the past. That's a great way to gauge, where you're at. Are you in your head or are you in your body? Because your body is, we're trained, for flight, fight, survival. I mean, so your body is in the moment. It's where is your head?
That's why I always like that
like
analogy. The head being like a computer. It's your hard drive. All your head does is store information. It cannot make you healthier, happier, smarter, more intuitive. It's just storing. It's just sucking in passive information, and it will replay it like a movie for you. It cannot help you deal with a moment. It cannot even help you deal with the future. That's where this comes in. You got to stop thinking with the hard drive, because that's only telling you about the past, and you have to start thinking about what's in the present, which is the heart brain, which is what brings all that information, that energy together and translates out into action.
Right, because your brain has no idea what's going on in the present until it hears from your heart, right?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes.
Got to receive all that.
Not everybody. But I was just going to say, I think I might be getting it wrong, but that's why the heart's electromagnetic energy, it's like 5 times as strong as your brain. And we would think the opposite, right? Because we think of how powerful our brain is. But yeah, your heart is by far stronger on the toroidal field that it is, putting out. And that's what makes up your aura, which, is picking up everything non-verbally from the minute, you walk into a space before you've even said a word to anybody. And it goes back to, like, Stephanie, what you were saying about, the gut, they're now finding out is they're calling it the second brain. They're finding out how important it is, and how a lot of your dopamine and serotonin and all of these, important chemicals are actually made in the gut, not in the brain like we once thought. And so if you just think of how important it is to be in tune with your body, and that's where, we'll start to get into intuition and how to dive into that. But I think I read 95% of communication is actually nonverbal. 95%. That is a lot. I mean, that's amazing. The power of your body.
And it's witnessed as so many people and in so many places are walking around with masks on their faces. And what I'm experiencing in that situation is that nobody has any idea what anybody else is saying.
That's an excellent point.
Even when we can hear each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. I noticed I've been crinkling my eyes more to show people that I'm smiling at them with these masks on. I'm like, because I want to convey to you that I'm happy. I'm happy you're there. I'm happy you're a stranger. I'm happy we're passing each other on the street.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wrinkle, wrinkle. Look at me. I'm smiling at you.
Same thing. That's funny.
I was talking with my manager at work, and he was saying that he was expressing frustration because he's like, with the mask on, you just can't tell, how people feel about things. And I said, it's all in the eyes. Just all you got to do is pay attention to the eyes, because you're right, that will show true expression. But to Cat's point, it makes it tricky.
It will show true. The eyes really are the window to the soul, right? Like, it will show a lot, but there are also so many people that are walking around out there sleepwalking. I can't tell you how often I look at people's eyes and think to myself, what's going on there?
Well, that's what I mean. It'll tell you. Yeah, the eyes will tell you.
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying I'm getting nothing from these dead eyes.
Well, then they're, like you said, they're asleep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. A lot of us are sleepwalking.
Mm-hmm.
It does have
how do we wake people up? How do we get people to understand how much more powerful and vibrant their life could be if they were experiencing it in the present, in the body, being fully aware, not sleepwalking.
Okay. Especially to what Steph was saying about that electromagnetic field, and what you're saying too, Kat, coming from the heart, or Katie, you put out an electromagnetic field that touches other people's electromagnetic field. So even if you can't see their mouth or their eyes or anything else, even if you don't hear a word, you're putting off vibrations. You choose whether those are good or bad or ugly or angry. they can feel that on a cellular level, even if consciously we don't know what it is. So those masks, it's almost like the illusion of separation, of holding us back. I don't know if anybody's familiar with tarot cards. There's this one tarot card, and she's got a bunch of swords over her bed, like pointing down at her. And she's fearful, and she's all wrapped up in chains. If you look at the chains are unlocked, but she's stuck and fearful in this life or death situation that she's put herself in. I'm thinking that's very much what's going on now with the mask and with all these other things. It's the illusion of separation, the illusion of fear and death that has completely trapped us, even though the bonds are ours. There are no real bonds.
Well
It's like
said.
the Matrix.
Well said.
I don't even know where that came from. God bless spirit. It makes me sound so smart.
That was beautiful. Yeah. And, I study human design, and that is the main premise, because it's all about our auras and our energy fields. And so there's so much that goes on a subconscious level. When you walk into a coffee shop, and you might not even be having a conversation with the person standing next to you, but you've got, active genetic responses and traits that, are lit up in you, and everything's, kind of this chemical process, right? When you've seen, like the molecules and how they bond together, they've got other things that are activated, and just your vibrational frequency of coming together with these people, it's unbelievable the impact they might have on you without you even being aware of them in your path. And so that's why it's so important for you to be aware of, your environment and the people that you are letting into your environment, because we are porous, open beings, and it's just amazing the quality of life and the shifts that you can have when you start just waking up to that, the control that you can take back.
Absolutely. There's a good question here from Jim Waljasper. And Steph, you might be able to speak to this one. Is there a cycle, us sending out love to earth and plants? They receive the energy and grow, and then pass it back to us in the food that we eat.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's symbiotic.
I would also say that cycle doesn't need to just be that you're going to eat or ingest that plant. Yeah. They're living beings. They have souls just like we do. And when we pass love and energy and interaction, back and forth conversation, whatever you want to call it, it comes right back in the moment if you're open.
And goes into you just think of what the root base is: touch or water. Water is my favorite conduit for passing love, because it's in the air, it's in the plants, it's in the rocks, it's in the soil, it's everywhere. So you permeate that down. If you just think about the trail that molecule takes, if you infuse that molecule with love, it does not stop. It is an action with absolutely no end to it. It will just ripple through time for infinity.
Spirit is moving through you today. That was beautiful.
I'm on it. I hope we're recording this.
Keep going. It's like poetry. Because I thought about that, and you're right. That's the beauty of water, is that, it will keep moving until the world, the environment gives it nothing to move to or from,
Well, and even when it evaporates and goes into a different state, or whether it does evaporate or doesn't evaporate, it's energy moving through the water, the air, the earth, the human, the non-human animal, the rest of nature. It is. Once it is.
It's an immortal. It's the only immortal element. Never ends, only transmutes, which I thought was just very poignant for humanity, and shows how closely linked we are in our different cycles, and completely dependent on each other to survive. If we don't have water, we're not surviving. If we pollute the water, the entire world will die. And Dr. Emoto's is one of my favorite. They did a study around a polluted lake in Japan, and they had a bunch of people go out and meditate around the lake, infusing it with healing energy. And they were able to actually clean that lake, to get rid of the pollution solely based on intention, by moving that intention into the molecules of the water. So if you take that to the next step and you think about the molecules in the air, you could change the world like that if you had enough intention behind it.
Absolutely. Well, look how fast the world changed when COVID started.
Yeah.
In so many ways, many of them positive, even though that's not always the focus, but many of them positive. And then move that to our bodies, whatever body you're inhabiting, with, you know, healing with intention. There are people all over the place that are already doing that.
We have another, it's more of a comment than a question, but this would be a good one. Annie's talking about, she just recently moved. She's got 2 dogs, so she likes healthy vegetables and food, but she's been reaching for the junk food because she's in this state of change. What advice would you give people who are forced to just, their speed is an essence?
I'll chime in here, and please somebody else too. I'll go back to what Chris said just a little while ago. Bless what you're putting in your body so that it can nourish you in a different way, in an appropriate way. And I always think anything that's temporary, it's temporary. It's not going to impact you forever. And if that's because what you have access to, then that's what you have access to. If that's because you are eating emotionally, then you could choose to feed the emotion in a different way. That would probably feel a whole lot better, and would then help you to make different choices to feed your body in a more effective way. That's my 2 cents.
It goes really to the argument of energy. If everything is energy, there is no bad energy. So we've put this negative connotation on food. We've given it that bad energy. We've made that choice that McDonald's burger has bad juju, and it's going to make me fat, and it's going to make my stomach hurt. We have given it that power, so we can also take it away. We can reframe it to the positive energy. Is it by itself has
that
no
McDonald's burger definitely still has bad juju.
It's not going to give your body what it needs. It's not going to give it any data that's going to help it do what it's supposed to do. But
you're right. We did.
If it's a temporary diversion, it doesn't have to make you unhealthy. It doesn't have to make you,
right.
You know,
right.
Very temporarily.
Yes, very temporary.
Stephanie, what would you suggest if you are, you know, transitioning, you're moving, you got boxes, you don't even know where your plates are, and you just need fast, you've got kids, you know, just something you can put in your mouth. What are your suggestions that, you know, you wouldn't microwave?
Simple is better. I mean, finger foods for kids. I always jump to vegetables, little things that they can grab with their hands and chomp on, crunch on, you know. Keeping it simple and not overcomplicating it, because that's when we get ourselves into that cycle of, oh, this is too much, let me just grab something easy. Just make it easy. Make it whatever that means for you. Easy, whatever that means. Because it's different for everybody. For me, easy could still take me 45 minutes. It just, you know what I mean? It just depends on what you're accustomed to and how you usually prep your food and what you're putting into that process. I mean, it really is going to be different for everyone, but starting in that simple mind frame of connecting to what it is that you need to fuel yourself and going, okay, how can I simplify this in the best way? Like, I'm starving right now. I have a pineapple and a mango. What do? I make a fruit salad. It's simple. You know, I can't get on board with, I've just got to be rough about it. I can't get on board with people talking about how difficult food is because it's you complicating it. It's not the food. The food isn't difficult. The food is simple. The food was made simple for us and created that way intentionally.
I so totally agree with that. And I think there's kind of a shift that needs to happen up here, or at least an awareness, because I think it's a fair statement to say that many of us are not aware that the larger food industry is actually investing almost all its dollars into brainwashing us, basically teaching us things that are
Checkoff
not
programs.
true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we learn from Go. I don't know if this is, I don't think it really is changing dramatically yet. We in this country, we learn from Go that milk is healthy, that meat is healthy, that, you know, all these things, that the way that we're taught to eat as Americans. And also that what comes along with that is, and I'm not making, I am going to say dairy is healthy for nobody. I do think that meat has a place in small amounts in a lot of people's diets.
Right.
Right. Thank you. However, I think that we learn how to make food and it becomes like part of our life, part of our, I don't know, like it becomes so much a part of how you function. It's almost like going to sleep and getting up in the morning. And I know firsthand that it really does take something to let go of that. I remember after I was diagnosed with cancer, standing in the aisles at the grocery store for hours. A grocery trip would take 3 hours at least. And at some point in that 3-hour journey, I would find myself standing there staring at a label with, you know, tiny writing that was this long with the ingredients. And I would just start to cry because it was a lot to learn what all that stuff was. It took me a minute to get to the place. Okay, don't read it. If it looks like that, walk away. But that was part of the learning process. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is there is a learning process. Food is simple, but we have to learn again how, or not again, we have to relearn or learn for the first time really how simple it is. Especially younger people. I feel like I'm just old enough that I remember when food was simpler, to be honest. Watching my grandma cook and a lot of stuff was not processed and prepared. And so I had something that I could grasp onto, but oh boy, I do think, I agree with you totally that it's simple. But it's become so convoluted.
It is.
On purpose.
It is, and it has. It
Yeah.
has become convoluted. And we've been inundated with this vast supply of manufactured edible non-food items.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That we're so overwhelmed with the number of choices that are quick and easy. It's like, who would want to go back to dial-up?
To what?
Right? Dial-up.
Exactly.
Everything progressed so fast, and you get so used to the speed and it just being boom, quick, and oh, I ate, and we're made to believe that we've fed ourselves just because we're not hungry anymore in that moment. Yeah, it's a big lie.
Yeah,
it is
crazy. And the difference in the way that you feel when you tune into what it is your body needs, because is it a true statement that everybody needs something a little bit different?
Yes.
So when you tune into what your body needs and you figure out, however you figure that out, for me it was trial and error, and I still could do a much better job. When that's what you provide for yourself, I mean, honestly, it's like if you're a person who needs 8 hours of sleep and you decide to give yourself 3 every night and you feel like garbage, but you end up functioning that way every day, so you have forgotten what it feels like to feel good. That's the best analogy that I could come up with. When you put what you're supposed to be putting, what actually provides your body with the data that it needs to really sing, hum, dance, fly, life becomes a very different game.
One little tip I will say, just as I can relate with the question and her situation, being busy and swamped, but still wanting to do nutritional stuff, is I have found that for me, a lot of the time zapper for like really cooking something from scratch is the food prep of usually dicing and slicing, you know, before you get everything ready, because you want to add, you know, fresh vegetables and whatnot into it. there are more and more stores now. I don't know if you have a Trader Joe's at all in your area. I have one lot in mine that do a great job of providing, like, I buy a bag that's got pre-sliced peppers and onions, and do you know what I mean? All sorts of different combos. It might cost you, 30 cents more, but I look at it like time value of money. If it keeps me on track to be able to, in a time crunch, still provide like a home cooked meal, it's a win. So I just wanted to throw that out.
The other thing that I'm hearing here is nobody involves their kiddos anymore in the prep of the food. And that's going to cut your time and teach them and get you coming together as a family. If you're a single person, you got all kinds of options, or if there are no kids in your home. But if there are, get them involved if they're old enough to use a knife.
That was a huge transition for us in going plant-based. We went plant-based 3 years ago, and it was such a big change for the whole family that the kids had no choice but to get involved.
Yeah.
It was like, you're going to come help, and we're going to do this together. And you have to be involved in the process so that you know what you like, because we're changing the way that we eat. We're exploring. You wouldn't send me off to explore by myself and come back and just tell you what it's like. You would engage in it and understand how it makes you feel and collect all of that experience for yourself. So now we're on vacation in the mountains and Callie's cooking dinner.
Well done.
Absolutely well done.
Cha-ching.
I think the key here is
rewarding.
That we learn not to listen to our bodies. Our bodies will tell us if it's not liking the food that it's putting in there. But at some point we have just bombarded it so much that it's shut up because it knows we're not listening anymore. But if you do purges, if you do cleanses and things like that, you will see your taste buds change at the end of it. You cannot tolerate some of the same food you were eating. Some of the fast food you will not be able to tolerate anymore because your body knows.
The sugar, the salt,
yes.
the additives, the things that they put in our food to make it what they believe will be more palatable becomes absolutely just that was a nice face. Becomes untenable. You can't believe that you ever enjoyed that, Yeah. I want to say something
really fun. Sorry.
No, go ahead, say it.
She's cursing.
I was just gonna say it's really fun. It's fun watching people go on that journey and dive into that exploration and changing what they eat and learning, playing with the body, like conducting your own experiment on your own body and seeing what it feels like and having that realization, just like you were saying, Chris and Kat, both of you were saying, the palate changes, and it absolutely does. You can walk somebody through a process of introducing specific foods in specific stages and eliminating other foods in specific stages in a way that eases their palate into the process gently. Because let me tell you, if you take a person who's a huge dairy milk drinker, cheese eater, right, with all of the fat content and the process, just all of it, right, tastes completely different. You're not going to be able to give them a slice of my cashew based mozzarella cheese from raw whole almonds and have it taste the exact same. Now it's garlic and herb mozzarella, fresh mozzarella. It's good. I pile it on my salad, but my palate didn't come there overnight. Mm-hmm. It was a whole process of introducing other foods and wiping other things out at the same time and just taking yourself on that journey, and your taste buds lead the way. They really do.
That is such a good point. I want to say two things. One, because I think so many people think that people who eat that way get used to it. It's really not good, but you get used to it. And that's not true. Yeah. What you're saying is very different than that. And I've experienced that. I know that that's accurate. And the other thing that I want to say is when you're talking about your taste buds changing, your whole body changes. It's that data yep. that keeps coming through. Yep. Your arms change, your face changes, your skin changes, your legs change, your belly, inside, outside, your organs change, your eyes change. Everything changes. How it functions and how it looks too. Like everything.
Yep.
feels and looks different.
Mm-hmm. We got a
Yep.
comment here from Pamela Vargas talking about the additives they put in food are to make us want more food.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's why sugar's in everything. We know how addictive sugar is. Go to the grocery store and take a look at the shelf and just see how many items you can pull off on a packaged shelf. Leave produce, right? Just go start pulling things off the shelf. How many can you grab and there's not sugar in it?
I can't buy almost anything. I avoid sugar. I do if I want something with sugar in it and if anybody that knows me watches this, they're going to go, you liar. Okay. Because at family birthdays and things like that, I will eat whatever is provided. And they don't really know what I eat like, to be honest with you. When I'm not in that circumstance, that is not how I eat. So I'm not, I've become much more flexible with it. I feel better when I'm less flexible with it. But if I go to the grocery store and I'm looking to purchase something that I'm not going to make, I don't know, 1% of the grocery store, maybe. I have to go to a special store for sure and look really hard because almost nothing doesn't have sugar in it.
Yeah. Melinda just joined us and she called sugar the white death.
Bravo. I concur.
Very descriptive.
It really is so true that food is, I mean, for me, at least, when I talk about dropping into the body and really being into the body and connected with your physical being, food is how I do it. Food is the quickest way to change everything that you feel.
What are
And
some
it could go
other
either way.
Maybe we
Let's
could all
talk
go
about it.
around and give some other ideas in addition to food, since we're running close to the end, of how we each are able to drop into our bodies and to be more present, and like what's working and has worked for us.
I think that's a whole nother hour. I really do.
I almost think it is too. I think this
Well,
turned
I mean,
into
just give people just a few ideas, just to end today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll
and we can talk next time.
Yeah,
a little example, and then we'll dive in. So I think for me, what you're talking about when you're talking about food being an entree into the body, and Katie mentioned being in the brain and versus heart space and gut space and that sort of thing. I will say I think many of us are not in our bodies. I think many of us, especially Americans, are functioning. If they're in heart space at all, it's just upper heart space. It's way up here. I think most of us are just right here firmly, because we're taught to value that more than anything else. And it's why so many of us are feeling lost. And I think that, gosh, there are probably a whole bunch of different ways that one can experience getting into the body. But I think one of the most important things is to figure out why you're not. Why aren't you in your body? What experiences have you had that have pulled you from the whole into this space? Because I think it's usually a fear-based kind of thing. And then once you recognize that this is where you're functioning, and there are easy ways to figure that out. 5 questions and you can figure that out. And once you recognize that this is the space from which you're functioning, walking through, this is what I would do anyway, walking through kind of what got you there, feeling into why, and addressing, questioning those things that resulted in this decision. And then ultimately, and it's a subconscious decision for everybody, right? And then ultimately, some version of, this is grossly oversimplifying, but some version of being where your feet are. Where are your feet? And there are so many different ways to get back in here. It can happen with a question and answer type of session guided by spirit, and spirit being the general term for all the lovely beings that show up to facilitate for me, with me, not for me. I'm showing up to facilitate actually for them, if we're being accurate. Sorry. I digress.
I love you so much.
Thanks. That's one way. You can also do visual imagery where you're dripping almost like syrup down into your body. Guided imagery. You can do that through meditation if somebody can lead you through that. I can lead you through that. Probably anybody here could lead you through that. Okay, I'll stop. That's my 2 cents. Sorry.
So good.
All good things. I actually have two things and then a challenge for Steph if she's down for it. The first I would recommend is specifically for food and just being present is muscle testing, the individual muscle testing that you can do. And I'll do this in restaurants. I'll have like 2 meals that I'm looking at and they both look good. So I'll make a circle with one hand, I'll make a circle with the other, lock them together, and then try to pull the hand through while visualizing the food. If the hand stays stable, that means your body physically reacted positively to that image, to that food. If your hand goes straight through, that means your body reacted negatively. So I'll do this to the food at restaurants. Be like, okay, I really don't want those tacos, but damn, my body told me I had to do it. So I'm going to go for those tacos. It's a good way of getting your body to tell you what it needs. And it's incredibly fast. I do it all the time in the grocery store. I'm constantly doing this in the grocery store.
That's awesome.
But that's super helpful. And the second one, I would challenge anybody who wants to know if there really is a difference to do a detox for a certain amount of time. And Steph, if you have one you recommend for the people, I would 100% do a detox challenge with anybody who's watching and wants to do that for a week, for a couple of days. And then,
I'll do it too. I like that challenge.
Yeah, just start adding in some.
When do we start?
As soon as you come up.
When do we start? You gonna give me time to get off this mountain?
Finish your vacation and post a detox, and people can come in and just comment on how it feels, because it really does make a difference. You will feel the difference.
Let's do it. What about a smoothie challenge?
I'm down for a smoothie challenge.
Whatever you recommend.
Smoothies. Yeah,
I would recommend starting every single day with a smoothie, and you do that for a week, and then on the second week you do breakfast and lunch.
What do you define?
Cooked meal in the evening, whatever it is that you're feeling driven to in the evening. Have your cooked meal, whatever you want to have. And if you got to add something in, if you're too hungry on that second week, add in like a little salad with your smoothie.
So you're saying
just some fresh food,
nothing but flowing. A smoothie until dinner time?
No, on that first week, just start your day. Ease yourself in. We don't know who's going to jump into this and what kind of stuff they might have going on in the body or what their habits look like, their diet looks like, and diving straight into high fruit can start to make you detox and not be so much fun. So we want to give people an experience that they can actually appreciate without hassle and disturbance and physical ailment or, anything like that. So to take it a little bit easier, we just do that first smoothie in the morning on the first week. Ease yourself into having something different pop up every morning, starting your day, fueling with those simple sugars, because everything that we put into the stomach has to be turned to a simple sugar. Fruit is a simple sugar. So it's the simplest, easiest thing for the body to consume because it understands and knows what it is immediately.
So what would you suggest people put in and or don't put in?
I would incorporate as much as you can, just fresh fruit. And if you want like some fats in it, avocado is great in a smoothie. If you want to you could do greens in the morning. You could throw a little greens into your fruit smoothie. I do things like hemp hearts. Hemp hearts make it kind of creamy if you like a creamy smoothie versus like a fruit, just a pure fruit based, not so much milky kind of smoothie.
Avocado makes it like creamy too.
Yeah, it really does. And then I just use water. I put fresh filtered water in with my fruit, blend it all up. If you have a really high powered blender, grab yourself some bananas and disc them up and throw them in the freezer. Turn them into little discs, and then you've got it's like adding ice cubes to your smoothie, but it's still fruit, so it's not diluting anything.
That was like how we got started, is we took a couple ice cube trays, or you can even just use like a cookie sheet with, you know, some wax paper. And if you
Pack
just,
them full.
yeah, slice up the bananas,
Yeah.
slice up the oranges, we slice up the apples. If you slice up apples, you do have to put some like lemon juice or something on them so they don't turn brown. And then you stick, you know, each little slice in the ice cube tray overnight. And then the next morning we'll have freezer bags, right? We dump all the apples in one, all the bananas, and it makes it so easy because nobody's got time, you know, 5 in the morning when you can't even see straight, you know, you're trying to, that's why people don't drink smoothies. But once we made it that easy to where all I have to do is pull out my bags and dump it all in, I have a smoothie done in like a minute. Well, maybe like 5, but still.
It's still easy.
So
Yeah.
it's still easy.
That would be super cool.
Yeah.
Better,
And you feel
definitely.
so alive and just like, I don't know. I know, like you guys were saying, just it makes such a difference. So you would do that then twice and you don't get hungry. Because I will find even when I throw some protein powder in there, I am, you know, 2 hours later-ish, I'm feeling a little hunger.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
If you got a snack,
put protein
yeah.
powder in, or
If you
don't
got a
put
snack,
protein
grab a
powder?
little something.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
No, I was just saying, if you got, even on the fruit smoothies, like if you're dying, if you're super hungry, chances are it's a detoxy feeling probably when you're starting in with fruit and just adding more in than you're used to, if it's not something that your body's accustomed to. But just add in a little snack somewhere, like a little handful of walnuts or, you know, whatever it is that will stave your hunger until dinner. Water on top of the fruit. It'll help with the hunger.
Is it good to add protein? And does it matter if it's in the morning or afternoon or evening or whatever? Like, are you saying don't put protein in it, or do?
I mean, you can, whatever you're using. For me, if I'm adding protein, I'm adding like a whole bunch of spinach or, you know, something like that, something with really rich in amino acids that our bodies need to build protein.
So like a plant-based protein powder? Yes, no?
Yeah, anything like that would be okay. Yeah.
I actually
anything like
walnuts
high
in
in
my
greens.
smoothie.
Yeah, anything high in greens is going to be protein packed. It's your body's going to build protein with it. Just because it doesn't say there's protein in it on the label, everything that you buy from the produce section is full of amino acids, and that's what our bodies use to build proteins.
Thank you for saying that.
So we're gonna do
You're
it.
welcome.
We're gonna do a smoothie chat.
Protein comes from plants. 100%. That's where the animals get it. Or they get recycled protein from another animal if they're a carnivore. So, but that animal, somewhere on the food chain, it came from a plant. And then the body built the protein and passed it on to the next animal. So for those guys, it's a little bit recycled, but those amino acids come from plants. That's the only place we get them.
That's cool.
The original source, the original amino acid of the plant comes from the plant.
So why don't we start this, ladies? And we can post our journey.
I'm already
The
doing
10th?
it for breakfast. I'm gonna have to start incorporating it for lunch. Should we say maybe this weekend to give people time to prep? Do you know what I mean? To get to the store and, you know, kind of think about it, like Saturday.
Sure.
I think
You know,
that's
people are
good.
working. Might be easier for them. Okay. And we'll do it for a week, and then we can see. We'd love to hear your feedback. Whoever's watching, like, you know, let's do this together, right?
Heck yes.
There's power in numbers. Feel free to
I'll
comment.
be traveling.
Jump on if you need, like,
I'll be traveling until Monday, so I'll join in with you guys as soon as I'm back.
Well, you're probably already doing what you're telling us to do. So
Yeah, I'm gonna be like in the car for a whole day this weekend, and I'll be in the mountains for a couple of days too, so I won't have any smoothies while I'm up there. I'll have other raw stuff, but no smoothies. Darn it.
that's
Darn it,
all right.
there's no
Catch us
smoothies
when
on the
you can.
mountainside.
No worries at all.
I'll dive right in with you.
Well, cool. Well, we've
That's
got a few
exciting.
minutes left. I would love to, because some of the things that I do to just drop into my body are, I've mentioned I am an instructor for Qigong, And I'd love to show you guys just, you know, a couple simple things that you can do today or any day, just sitting at your desk anywhere, just to kind of get out of your head and just, you know, kind of get into your environment and bring in all the good juju. And then I also offer a biofeedback program with people. And oh my gosh, I have to say, just that feedback, that direct feedback, that you can do a scan of your system. And I can do that remotely, you know, it doesn't have to be live, but it basically has like 100 different mathematical algorithms for the frequencies that vitamins run at, that foods run at, that, you know, all these different things run at. And it takes your voice and your picture and runs that frequency against everything, and basically offers vibrational frequency tones to align you with where you're deficient. So it's a great way to see. It analyzes body, biofield, which is your energetic field, and mind. So it's just, I'm a visual person. I love to see that, you know what I mean, and play with it and tweak it. And so I would highly recommend biofeedback as a great way to you know, start and get a real good feel for, because we all are unique and have sensitivities. There might be something that is really healthy, but for me, if I eat it, you know, it just creates a little bit of a disturbance in my energetic field. So that's if you really want to optimize it. But as far as Qigong goes, you know, we were talking today about, you know, just trying to clear your mind. All of our minds are on overdrive. I can't even imagine what a lot of you are going through right now. And it's just a lot. It's a lot to process. I was just at the orthodontist and she was telling me just the number of people that are coming in like with cracked teeth, and they don't even know that it's happening, but they literally are needing root canals. The doctors that do the oral surgery are going broke because they can't do any surgery, because so many people are just that stressed out that, you know, subconsciously we're trying to process this stress. So I wanted to just give you guys like just a little thing you could do. We call it peaceful mind meditation. And in the Qigong that I work with, it's a medical Qigong. So we, I don't know if you've all had acupuncture done or heard of acupuncture, but it's all based, the Qigong that we do is based on focusing on certain acupuncture points, you know, for release and movement of energy flow. And so if you look, you know, on your hands and you just make the okay sign and do it like this, the key is we want your index finger tip, you know, being pushed on by the thumb, right? So there's a connection there, but it's basically the okay sign. And the index finger corresponds with our colon, and our colon is all about release, right? You know, the Qigong master that I study under, he's also a molecular physicist. And, you know, so he's a very smart man. And he says, if we want to be cancer-free, really the best thing you can do is to take care of your colon. Because if your colon is cleansed and you know, getting rid of whatever is needing to be rid of, all the toxins in your body, you will, you know, be okay. So what we do is we take, you know, these okay points, and you can just rest them in your hand. It would be, or in your lap. It'd be great if you could maybe just close your eyes and, you know, maybe let's just take 3 deep breaths and really start to kind of tune inward with our body and, you know, see what's talking to us and what areas maybe need work. Start thinking about your mind and getting connected with how many different thoughts are actually going through your mind on any given moment, and just how overcrowded it is with just mostly, I think they say about 80% of the things we think about every day are negative, and we just repeat them over and over because most of it's actually negative self-talk. But if we have those okay signs in our lap and we're just taking some breaths, we're starting to calm the body down, and we're getting focused again on those thoughts and the things that we want to get rid of and release in our brain. What we're going to do is there's a point, we call it the harmony point, and it's just right here past the knuckle on your hand. And so if you think about like an air purifier, When we breathe in, we're going to breathe in and focus our energy on collecting all those thoughts in our head that are bothering us and that we want to get rid of. And then on the exhale, just picture those thoughts moving into that point in the okay sign, that harmony point. And it's almost like when we think about a computer, it's like hitting the delete button. It just, that specific point has a way of energetically releasing intended thought from our systems. So why don't we just do that maybe for about 20 seconds. I'll be quiet. Start to picture pure, clean, vibrational color or space moving into your mind as you start to purge some of those negative thoughts. And then we'll take one more deep breath in together and exhale for the last time. Clearing those thoughts out, sending them to that acupuncture point, hitting the delete button, and then we'll open our eyes. And once you've been able to kind of calm and clear the mind out, whenever we do Qigong, we always want to end any exercise with a gathering breath. And so all that is you are basically just taking your hands and you're just bringing them down by your sides and then swooping them up. And if you just think, all of our environments, if you're in a quiet space, contain, just calm, clear, fresh air, fresh ions, water, like what Chris was saying, all the things that are in the universe that we can draw on. And so we start to bring those down as we move. I don't know if you can see me, but as I move the hands over my head and I'm gathering in, all the nurturing love that the earth provides, along with this clear heavenly light, whatever you want to believe in, vibrance, fresh energy. And we bring those down and we gather them right below our belly button. We call this the lower dantian space. And it's an energy hub. And it's a space where we can take this clean, fresh, universal energy, bring it in. Like we were talking about, the gut is the second brain. And if we start to bring that fresh energy into the gut, where a lot of the processes start that move into the brain, it's just a big, cycle. And so we purge the negative, we bring in the positive, and let me know how you guys feel. Do you feel a little clearer? A little more grounded, a little more stable?
Definitely more
That's
peaceful.
nice. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, it's just something simple. And like I said, you could even do some of it at your desk at work. Even if you're in a meeting and it's very stressful, trust me, there have been times where I've got my hands under the table, it's all intention, thought, and just moving energy.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead. Real quick caveat before you close. We should do a body scan before we start the detox, and then we could do it again at the end and see what's changed. I'd be very curious about that.
That's a fantastic idea.
Okay. Do you want to do one today? Do we have time? We're running a little over
Well, we could do it on our own outside of here.
And
then
we can post it in the group.
Scan. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
We can post it in the group. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great idea. I could scan you all individually, and then we'd have it, and then we could do it before and after. We could do like an aura scan. That'd be cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that idea, and thank you guys. So I guess this is a good place to say thank you so much for joining us this week, and we hope you'll continue to hang with us so we can all grow together in this journey as we share our stories and experiences, always remembering that we're all teachers and students. We know that's true, and we appreciate you showing up in our space, our collective space together. You've been listening to, I want to say, let's see, We are live every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And you can catch us on the Facebook group, Muses. Our Instagram is Muses of Light, and we're on YouTube as well. So you've been listening to Chris, Katie, Stephanie, and myself, Kat, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.